Hey, welcome back to episode number 9 of the 7-Figure Real Estate Show.
So in today's episode, we speak with Wally Bressler, who is one of the top real estate coaches in the country. Make sure you stay to the end because Wally and I will give you away a free real estate script to deal with expired listings.
Yeah, this is a fantastic episode, whether you are a beginner or a seasoned veteran. Would you agree, Nick?
Yeah, 100%.
With that said, let's get right into the show.
Hey, Wally, I want to thank you for coming on the 7-Figure Real Estate podcast today. Really looking forward to this conversation. You and I have had a history together for, God, I was thinking about it. I think it's been 15 plus years at this point. Yeah, I met Wally. I was looking for a coach, and he really stood out and really helped me grow into the agent that I am today. So thanks so much for coming.
Thanks for letting me join me. I appreciate it.
Really what I wanted to talk about today is, the benefits of having a coach and, things that would help you grow as a first-year real estate agent. So a lot of people are hesitant about spending that dollar on a coach, but I think Jack and I have talked about this before, starting early in real estate and starting fast is the key to success. So, what would you say to somebody just coming into the industry about hiring a coach and finding that niche?
So the distinction I would make here is that if you're just getting into the industry, you probably need training more than coaching. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is somebody who's going to give you the basic building blocks on prospecting and time management and lead management and understanding the market, how to make it, to do a listing presentation, how to do a buyer presentation, how to show a house, the things that basically, move the needle. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And then as you get to 2+ houses a month, you're making a decent amount of money, then probably hiring a coach from there.
Sure.
Right. Because, most people aren't going to be able to actually afford a coach right out of the gate. But, there are programs out there, that where you can go hop on. There's programs that'll teach you all those basics, depending upon what brand you're with. A lot of them have a lot of that training anyway. But I think you definitely need to be coachable. You need to be willing to get feedback. You need to be willing to be held accountable, and then learn the things you need to learn so you can get your business to the next level. And then, like I said, once you're selling, probably 2 houses a month, you've got enough scratch to go ahead and invest in having somebody take you by the hand and move you forward. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah,
Makes
definitely.
sense. I've always heard in anything, whether it's sports, profession, chess, you need to understand the fundamental moves first and the simple, the moves that should be mindless and what you're doing before you can advance to the more intricate, the moves that are actually making substantial. So you really just have to so it's about what are the main skills that you have to have down as a real estate agent that are to you perceived as the fundamentals?
Great question.
That's a great question. I think there's some very specific actual attributes and skills you can have, and then there's some more esoteric skills. And what I mean by that is from a factual standpoint, you need to be able to be coachable, which is actually a skill, right? You've got to work at it to become coachable. You've got to be willing to be anything other than resistant or open, I should say, to getting feedback from somebody. You need to be able to talk to people over the phone effectively. You need to be able to make presentations effectively. You've got to speak clearly. As far as, negotiations are important. Those are certainly good. That's a good foundational skill. Managing time is a very, very important skill. And, those are probably good foundational skills. The things that are a little more esoteric are, being goal-oriented, right? And being willing to do the things you need to do in order to be successful. A lot of people ask me, and, I'm fortunate enough to be on a decent number of podcasts, and I always get asked this question, which you didn't quite ask that question, but it's in the realm of this question to say, what's the one thing that makes successful salespeople successful and others unsuccessful? And it took me a while to process this because there's so many different criteria for that. But what I came down with the cold. Sorry, no. What I came up with was the difference between a successful anything really and an unsuccessful anything is that successful people will do the things that they have to do. They'll do the things that other people don't do, and they'll push through the fear to make it happen. I think that's really the biggest distinction. So being willing to push through the fear, be open to learning, be open to taking feedback, that being coachable. The one thing, a coach can teach you just about anything. And we now learned that somebody can even coach you on how to overcome call reluctance and video reluctance and things like that. But the one thing you can't teach anybody is how to be hungry.
Yeah.
We can't teach drive.
Teach drive.
Right. So, I can't coach you and teach you on drive. That's got to come internally. The esoteric skills are, being goal oriented, being hungry, being willing to push through fear, and being willing to take accountability and get feedback. And then the hard skills are, getting on the phone, prospecting, handling objections, making presentations, handling objections, trial closes, negotiations. And technically you could say the stuff that is really germane to the job, like literally how to fill out a contract,
right?
How to write an offer for somebody, how to show a house is certainly a skill. How to get somebody approved and work with the right lender, finding vendors and stuff like that. But all that stuff right there, that's all basic things that somebody should be able to do before they should. And here's the thing. A coach is going to go ahead and like, for instance, like when you show up with all that, you're a square, and then the coach is going to take you from a square to becoming a cube and become a well-developed version of that. Is that right? Make sense?
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Right. So I think coaches isn't going to change you dramatically. Just going to say, okay, you have this foundational setup here. You're a square. I'm going to make you a cube, and I'm going to make you a more well-developed version of who you are.
Right. So if you were to say, so you and I used to practice scripts a lot,
Yes.
Tonality, what to enunciate, what not to enunciate. Would you say that would be one thing that somebody's just getting in the industry that it should be, what they're doing on a daily basis is learning what to say and how to say it?
Yeah, for sure. That's right up, that's scripting 101,
Yeah.
Right. And, you've heard the statistic before about communication, about 90+% of communication being nonverbal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
77% is what you say. Everything else is, like you said, how to say it, when to say it, tonality and things like that. And here's the thing, this kind of comes along with the accountability thing and being able to role play and work on things. And honestly, one of the best things anybody can do to get better at is listen to their calls.
Yeah.
And hear what they're saying, right? When you hear yourself say something you shouldn't have said or say it the wrong way, it'll drive that into your head to not do that ever again.
So did I just hear you say record your calls and then listen to them? Or record your script reading and then listening to them?
Yeah, script reading, yes. Calls are better because you're in the moment. You know what I'm saying? You played hockey. Wyatt plays hockey. You're a huge hockey fan.
Yeah.
You could practice slap shots and wrist shots and skating and stopping and all that other stuff. Stuff up against the boards. You can practice that. What you need to do to gain that muscle memory. But at the end of the day, there's nothing that's going to teach you the what you need to do, how to do it, when to do it better than game speed, which is getting on the phone and recording those phone calls.
Right.
So you got to practice, you got to role play, you got to get that stuff in your head so you have it available to you, and then you've got to get on the phone and make calls and record them and hear what you're saying, how you're saying it, when you're saying it, and bring it to somebody who is better at it than you are, so they can give you the feedback and say, hey, when you said this here, you should have said this, or you're ending your all of your sentences with an uptick, which generally means there's doubt or there's a question or whatever. I'm saying they can give you the feedback you need, and you can hear it at the same time, so that you can make the fix there. It's interesting. I worked with Brian Moses. He was also your coach.
Yep.
And probably the pioneer for buyer agency and sales, across the country. And so, he had basically was looking for a new office and hadn't found office space yet. This is before he bought his building on Main Street in Nashville. I don't know if you ever made it down to that. Did you ever see that?
I saw the building. I'd never visited it, but yeah.
So he bought a building, and so before we had that, we moved into this like ginormous closet across the hall from the office space that he had. So it was this huge. It was a ginormous closet. It was bigger than my first apartment for when I got out of college, for God's sakes. But so anyway. We had to sit, he basically lined up all the phones, and my seat was right next to his. So I'd be prospecting, and I would say something, he'd go, whack, don't say that, say this. And I'd say something, whack. Not hard. He's like, don't say it. I'm saying, I learned
Yeah.
Right. But the whole point is it worked. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it really helped me and it accelerated my skill set, and I was able to have a successful career as an agent, but also, taught me a lot to help him build what at that time was, one of the most successful Cole Banker franchises in the world. So
yeah,
it definitely, it was important to do that for sure.
Interesting. So let's talk a little bit more about your experience as an agent, and then maybe at the end we could circle back to more coaching stuff. So you mentioned your first year, you move into that glorified closet. And then how much real estate did you sell your first year? At what age and what year?
I've heard what age? Actually, it's funny. I started later than a lot of people do because I suffered from call reluctance for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I just couldn't get out of my own way. Mm-hmm. And I may have been, a lot of agents get into the business thinking that, I'm just going to go sell a bunch of houses and make a lot of money. I'm going to show people houses. It's going to be wonderful. And then they get smacked in the face when they realize, how much work there is, and how much time commitment is, and how much rejection there is, and I guess at the time I was so much of a coward, I wasn't even willing to do that. So, I suffered, basically I suffered from call reluctance, from probably 1988 to 1998 when I got my license. I was 30 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I started as an agent right after my 30th birthday.
Yeah.
I sold 72 houses my first 14 months in the business, though. So, once I finally got over it, it was amazing. So, this shoulda, woulda, coulda, regrets, wish I had. I mean, I wish I'd got my license right out of college. My son's 19. He's getting his license next month. So I'm super excited for him.
That's great.
That's awesome. Yeah. What helped you get over that call reluctance disease? Like, was it were you kind of just fed up? Like, I want to make more money. I want to, I have this license. I might as well use it. What happened?
Well, that's a great question because I worked in the mutual fund industry for about 10 years. And so I got a lot of coaching and training on how to be on the phone, how to be successful, how to build relationships, how to work on my confidence, all that stuff. So I learned a lot about that. I also did a truckload of personal development and processed a lot of the challenges that I'd had from being a child, and worked on overcoming those things. So, and I guess the straw that broke the camel's back was, Brian ended up marrying one of my best friends. And so I got a lot of exposure to him and I saw the success he was having. And it's funny because January of 98, at that time, the woman I was, she's now my ex-wife, but my fiance, and I went out to dinner with Janet and Brian and we're sitting there. And she goes, "You really should go work with Brian. He has more leads than he can handle. And I think he'd be great at this job."
Mm-hmm.
So it took me about, 6 months, literally until June, to kind of process it. But the straw that broke the camel's back is I was in the mutual fund industry in Boston and we had a presentation contest and I worked my rear end off for the presentation contest. I know I did an amazing job. I could tell by the feedback I got from everybody that I did an amazing job. And I came in third and I was pissed. I was literally pissed. And so I
was this something that like you got like a bonus on, or was it just a
yeah, man. This is corporate America, man. This is trying to impress people to get a promotion. This is all the stuff that people in corporate America hate.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. And so I'm pissed and I called Brian from this is before cell phone days. There was no cell phone. So I called him from the office. They said, "Are you home?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Can I come over?" He goes, "Sure." And so I probably did about 90 from work to his house, which is about 45 minutes. And I pulled into his house. He had a nice house. And I go, "Where are you?" He goes, "I'm in back." So I went out to the back and he was there staining his deck. And I said, "What'd you do today?" He goes, "I'm sorry." I go, "Why do you do what you do?" He goes, "Well, what did you do today?" I said, "I was at work from 7 a.m. to now, about 6, 7 o'clock. I said, I did a sales contest. I came in third. I was pissed. I basically was on the phones all day working for somebody else." He goes, "Oh." He said, "I had 2 closings today. I got paid and I wasn't there to get the checks. I rode my motorcycle out to the coast, had lunch, came back, and I've been staying in my deck." I said, "Where do I sign up?" So that's the God's honest truth. I took a vacation time from work. Back then, when you didn't have to have all the hourly requirements, I read the book in like a week. I took the crash course, got my license, and I started in August of 98. So, yeah. But it was, working, to answer your question directly, what helped me do that is a lot of professional training. But it's 10 years, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it took 10 years to overcome that. Now you can do it in like 2 months. But it's one of those things where I had a lot of work to do on myself to get there, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. So, okay. So now you step in the office, you're working with this guy, Brian. What was your first day like?
Um,
Was
well,
that
it's
the TD Ameritrade?
No, that sounded like a reminder.
It sounded like an alert went off on TD
It was my
Ameritrade.
stupid calendar that I turned off all the reminders on and still reminds me. So I turn all that stuff off. I turn my phone off. I try and turn everything off. I don't want any notifications because it's a ginormous time.
You're good.
I apologize for that.
Oh, good. Good.
No worries.
So yeah, you step into the office. What happens?
So, it's interesting. My first day of training, actually, it's just so funny.
How big was Brian's team at that time? Did he have an admin, or was it just you and him?
Yeah, it was him, and then he had a full-time admin who was also transaction coordinator, listing coordinator,
Mm-hmm.
and then he had 2 buyers agents at the time. So the year before, he had started working with Craig Proctor, who would really help him understand about lead generation and team building and stuff. So he really just started doing that. I think the year before I met him, he had done like 93 homes or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and sold. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So my first day, working with him. So this is a cool story. He says, "Come to my house. We're going to do training." And most people watching this won't know. So we're pizza from Papa Gino's, which, by the way, is one of my all-time favorite pizzas, but it's a New England staple. So we ordered, right? It's good. So we have pizza from Papa Gino's, and so we had pizza, and then to teach us a lesson about saving receipts and everything, Brian actually billed us for a third of the pizza for a third of the cost as part of the lesson, which I thought was pretty funny. But I remember that, I'm like, "What's this?" He goes, "I said you sent me an invoice for what?" He goes, "For the pizza." I go, "What? You're in business now, man. You got to keep track of what you spend on." I'm like, "Okay, good lesson." So we sat at his kitchen. So we sat at his kitchen table, and we learned that day about what a good buyer. He says, "What's an A+ buyer?" And he tells us what an A+ buyer is. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Has money, has credit. Well, back then the credit wasn't as big of a deal, but has money and or good credit. Looking to buy a home in a certain number of days, and has a real strong motivation. I still teach that to this day, 25 years later.
Mm-hmm.
So that was it. The first day at the office, he had taught us scripts and stuff like that. So I had my script book. He gave me some leads, and he sat down at the phone. He's like, "Okay, see you later."
Wow.
Like, okay, because he had trained me. He'd give me the scripts. He told me everything I needed to do. We had role played.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just started picking the phone and calling leads.
Wow. Did you have the script in front of you?
Yeah, of course. I still do today.
Yeah.
Even though I helped to rewrite some of this stuff, I'm just saying, like, I still keep it in front of me today because you can't remember. I mean, like, there's for sale by owners, there's expired, there's buyers, there's circle prospecting, there's all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's hard to remember every word of every script.
Mm-hmm.
So I still have them in front of me today when I call. And I call with people, I prospect with people all the time. So
that
was my first day, man. And it was interesting because I when you work in that situation, when there's a plan, when there's a system, when there's a strategy, you can have success very quickly. And that's another thing. A lot of people come into the business and they get in, they want to do everything by themselves. We have this like odd, strange belief system in the United States that success is you doing everything yourself, trying to do everything yourself, accomplishing everything yourself, putting it all on your back. Whereas really there's no such thing as a self-made man or woman. We all need help from people.
Yeah. Leverage. Right. Leverage is key. Leveraging. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's collapsing time for you. You know what I'm saying? So, I would recommend anybody, quite honestly, if you're just getting into the industry, you really should get on a team.
Yeah.
Go work with somebody who's done it before, has a system, has a strategy, has scripts, has dialogues, has leads, has technology.
Mm-hmm.
Go be on a team for a year or two, learn what you need to learn, and build and grow from there, and then take what you've learned and then go out on your own after that.
Well,
that'll help you get a tremendous amount of success because then you'll get all the training you need and coaching you need, if you will, which is built into what you're already spending for your split, and then you can move on from there.
Right.
Yeah. So Brian, to you, he wasn't necessarily a coach; he was more a mentor.
In that case, he was both.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the reason I say that is because he was also he was coaching for Craig Proctor at the time. So, he did a lot of coaching. And so whenever he did coaching for other people, we would sit in on that coaching too. But he did both. Like, we'd have actual coaching training and he would do mentoring as well.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the show today. If you ever want to buy, sell, or invest in real estate in the greater Portland area, please reach out to us here at Danbury Guerin Real Estate Advisors. Our phone number, 207-553-2400, or you can always email us at team@danburyguerin.com.
The 7-Figure Real Estate Podcast and the CE Shop have partnered to provide you guys with awesome real estate licensing education. So wherever you are in the US, if you are looking to get your real estate license, make sure to check out the CE Shop and you can start your real estate journey today. We have links in all of our descriptions. So if you're interested, make sure to scroll down, click the link, and get started. Hey listeners, and shout out to you if you're watching this on YouTube. Whatever you're doing right now, maybe you're folding laundry, maybe you're in a car ride, maybe you're at the gym, maybe you're just listening to this to pass some time. We ask that you guys can help us grow this podcast, and the only way this grows is through your help, and that means sharing, commenting, liking. Now, we're putting a ton of work into this episode with cameras and lights and action and bringing on good guests, so any type of engagement you guys give us can help us make this bigger and bigger. Again, we thank you guys so much for all of your support, and we look forward to growing this thing.
Wally, what would you say the difference between a mentor and a coach is? What would you say that?
Great question. So mentor is somebody who you go and talk to and ask, for guidance on how to become a better real estate agent or better at anything. And, tell me how you did this. Tell me how you did that. What would I do here? What would I do there? Somebody you can go to and get guidance from, and who can give you the help you need, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, give you all kinds of tips and strategies. A coach is somebody who has a plan, right? There's somebody who has a plan and a strategy to take you from here to here, ultimately looking to get you towards your goals. You know what I'm saying? You're going to sit down with them, meet with them every week. They're going to go ahead and tell you step by step, what you're supposed to do in order to get the results you want. A mentor is somebody you kind of check in with to get feedback, to get guidance on what would you do here, what would you do there. Sometimes coaches can be mentors. You know what I'm saying? Like the style of coaching I do is that we come in, we get together, we put a plan together. But if you need help in between calls or something, you just text me and say, hey, what would you do here? What would you do there? So I kind of do mentoring and coaching at the same time, but a mentor relationship is a lot more personal. Not that coaching is not personal, but it's more just, getting the feedback and information you need when you need it to keep moving forward. And coaching is really about step-by-step plan to help you reach your goals.
Yeah, that's great.
Right. Because here's the thing. I mean, a mentor isn't going to, in most cases, they're not going to say, hey, what would you do in this situation? Like, here, let me email this to you. This is what I would do.
Yeah.
So like, okay, here, let me email this to you. Okay, so this is what you do first, second, third, fourth. Watch out for this. Watch out for that. Right?
Yeah.
So that's
wow. That's great. I know that you've actually sat on the phone with me, when I've been making calls, and then we have a debrief afterwards. So it's the kind of stuff has been helpful. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, the more willing you are to accept coaching, the more willing you are to get feedback, the more willing you are to be humble, whatnot. The better things will be for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. The shorter distance will be between where you are today and where you want to be. And
you're realizing somebody else has done it before you, right?
Yeah. I mean, and that's the whole thing. I mean, if you go back, I mean, like Tom Hopkins is probably one of the very first real estate coaches, right? I mean, he's been around since Jesus wore short pants, right? Since sand was invented. Part of the way he built his business is with handwritten notes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Some of the most successful agents today still send out handwritten notes. Right there. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, there's some things that will stand the test of time and they're going to work forever. Right. And why reinvent the wheel?
Right.
I think that's the thing. I mean, look. I mean, an expired script today, very similar to an expired script back in the day. Buyer scripts. The scripts that I'm working with and using today are just variations of what was available, when I first got started, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, with technology, with AI, of course, there's all kinds of new ideas and new strategies and stuff like that. But the foundational elements of real estate are by and large still the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are the top 3 faults that you notice in new agents and even all the way to super experienced agents, as far as mistakes that they're making in their day-to-day scripts?
Scripts?
Yeah. And not just like a specific niche type of script, but like all scripts as far as tone, the way they present themselves. Like one trick that I heard is like smile when you're on the phone, because your smile and like the way you talk. So I'm curious, like what type of advice or changes do you generally notice people have to make, or you could give them to improve their effectiveness with their scripts?
Great question. And to your point, by the way, smiling to make your voice sound different on the phone has been around for, I don't know, about 100 years at least.
Yeah.
think they started using the phone for sales in like 1905 or something like that. You know, long time
Yeah,
ago.
yeah.
So
It's something one of my favorite metaphors is like a dog. Like a dog comes in, they're like so happy to see you, and you're happy to see the dog. So it's like when you pick up the phone to say hi to someone, like be excited. You're like, "Hey, Wally, how you doing?" And it just makes people feel good. But anyways,
Belfort.
Yeah.
That's right. A steward in Belfort in 101, right? He's like three things: super enthusiastic, enthusiastic as hell, sharp as a tack, and sound like a force.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Over the phone, you get 4 seconds to make an impression. You get a quarter of a second face to face. You're sized up. By the time somebody sees you, their brain's already made a decision about you based on their life experiences. Over the phone, it's 4 seconds. So, biggest mistake. Number one, people have not internalized their scripts. Right? They don't know what to say, when to say it, how to say it. You know, you had talked about before. I think what you just said is, I forget the word you used, but basically, you need to be, as they say, unconsciously competent.
Mm-hmm.
You got to like tying your shoes, making your favorite meal.
Get the basics down.
Yeah, you get not just the basics. They're like, for instance,
fundamentals.
Well, I'm comfortable in saying it. I'm not saying this from an arrogant standpoint. There's nothing anybody could say to me on the phone that would stump me. You know, nothing. Unless they said, "Hey, look, I'm about to kill myself for my wife" or something like that, which is really extreme. But if it's related to sales in a house or something like that, I know that there's nothing that somebody could say to me that I wouldn't have a response to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's really where you need to get if you're going to be successful. You need to know what to say, when to say it, how to say it. You've got to have it internalized. And the answers and whatnot to those solutions have to be in your head and without you having to think about what to say then. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's the biggest one. People haven't internalized their scripts. That's the biggest mistake. Number two, they're not in the right mindset when they get on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
No, they're not prepared mentally, emotionally, psychologically to get on the phone and focus on doing what they're supposed to be doing. Right. So not only do they not know what to say, when to say it, how to say it, they're not present on the phone. And a lot of times it's because they dread it. You know, they're not looking forward to it. They're not excited about what the opportunity is there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, right. So that number one would be not internalizing the script. Number two would be not being prepared mentally, emotionally, and psychologically. Number three, not making it a priority.
Mm.
Okay.
It's the only thing you should be doing, right? I mean, well, it's the only thing you should be doing until you're very busy. Like,
so where do you get, because now that it's tricky with do not call lists, you can't just pick up a phone book and just start dialing every single number, because that could get you in some type of trouble. No,
there's phone books. They still make phone books.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so where are you guys like finding? Like, are you paying for number lists? Are you like, where are you getting all of these phone numbers to just sit there and just dial?
Wow, great question. So there's a ridiculous number of lead providers out there that have called data and lists and whatnot, and expired for sale by owners, withdrawns, buyer leads. You know, there's companies that do estate leads, they do divorce leads, they do bankruptcy leads. If you want, you can go buy a list of people who are 30 and 60 and 90 days late in their mortgage, right? You can find leads of investors. There's anything that's out there. But for the real estate industry, there's lots of what we call closed loop lead generation platforms, which means somebody comes in, you get their name, number, whatever information they put in, and then they stay in your system to continue to look at properties, to continue to get information from you, and basically just stay in touch with them until they're ready to do something. So there's no shortage of that sort of stuff out there.
Yeah, you can find endless amount of numbers to call that have been scrubbed. They've been through the do not call list. And every once in a while, you may run into somebody, and if you do, they'll tell you take me off the list, and you take them off the list and hang up the phone. But it's a good thing to worry about. So you go to a professional company that will provide those lists for you.
How much do these lists normally cost?
Not much.
No, not relatively speaking. No, and there's lists. Like, for instance, there's a company called Coal Resource Directory, and they'll do circle prospecting data anywhere in the country. That's like $1,000 a year. Right. Mm-hmm. But then there's other companies out there that, they provide you with a CRM, they provide you with, leads, they provide you with, follow-up campaigns, AI and stuff like that. If you're an individual agent, it costs you somewhere between $700, $1,200 a month. And if you're a team, it could be, $1,500 to $3,000 or $4,000 a month, depending on how many leads you need. So it varies based on what your needs are and what you're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
But it is an affordable scenario for just about everybody out there.
What do you think the best lists to buy are as a new agent? So let's say a new agent coming to the game. I need to start dialing the phone. What lists should I be buying? Because if you're dealing with, there's obviously more technical. Sometimes you have a buyer who's cash, they want to buy this month. That's an easy transaction. Now you might have someone who's FHA, bad credit. They're looking for a very specific type of property. So as a beginner agent, are you looking for these easier type of transaction deals? Are you trying to get just whatever you can get your hands on? And then where should you be looking as far as, because there's so many different, like you just said, there's so many different number lists that you can just start dialing: recently expired, for sale by owners, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So if you have bad credit, you're not getting a house. So nobody's really talking to you right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's a tough one, fortunately, in this environment, just being a wise guy. So here's the thing. My belief is that you should be willing to spend somewhere between $850 and $1,000 a month on leads to have enough leads. So if you get an expired platform that's out there, do you guys tell brands on this or no? Do you say
it's fine.
anything? Or,
yeah.
Yes. So if you get something like Mojo Sells or Vulcan 7 or the Red X, you're going to spend somewhere between, $300, $350, maybe a little bit more a month for, expired, withdrawn, for sale by owner leads, a dialer, CRM. Right. And then you need you need some buyer leads too, and there's lots of buyer lead providers out there that, have a smaller company, or a smaller person program, something like Real Geeks or even Commissions Inc. and, even YLopo. I mean, there's, and basically that's going to probably run you with ad spend somewhere between $800 and $1,000.
Yeah.
But, the fact of the matter is, if you can spend $850 to $1,000 a month and get 40 to 50 buyer leads and all the expired withdrawals and for sale by owners you can shake a stick at, Yeah.
And I would actually say too that your first lead, your first lead source would be right here. Whomever's in your contact list.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And that's the cheapest, right? So many people, you have on average probably have 1,000 people sitting in their phone, and you just start going through there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to start there. It's this is my personal opinion. We talk about going fishing where the fish are biting, right? And I think that's got to be a vertical within your lead generation, but I don't think it can be your only lead generation strategy because you never know who's buying, who's selling. I mean, you have to do it because you got to build those relationships and have opportunities that people can send to you, but it's highly, highly unscalable. Someone like you who's been around for a long time, has done a lot of houses, has a lot of past clients, has a lot of sphere. You can count on so many referral and past client deals a year. You know what I'm saying? Right. But someone who's brand new, you have to do it, but it can't just be the only thing you hit up. But I agree, it definitely needs to be part of it. Yeah.
So you get into, expireds, withdrawns, for sale by owners is probably, a really great pillar to focus on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you guys be open to doing like a role play script?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
What do you want to be? Do you want to be the agent or you want to be the?
Oh, I want to be the buyer. I want to be the client.
That's a silly question. That's fine. I could have answered that question for you 6 years ago. Not for Nick, for any real estate agent. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Like we do role plays, and it's so funny because people don't want to role play so badly that they don't even want to be the buyer or the seller. It's just hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't even want to be like, I'm like, okay, let's role play. I'll be the agent. I'm like, no. And I'm like, come on, I need somebody to be my foil here. So, what do you want us to role play?
Let's do a cold call for sale, just simple, like for sale by owner.
Let's do an expired.
Expired
is probably something where in our market, there's not a whole lot of for sale by owners right now, but there probably is some expireds that people can tack into.
I mean, I use a slightly different script because I try to get in the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't do the same. We'll do an expired. Just okay. When you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, ring.
Hello.
Oh, hey Nick, it's Wally. I'm a local real estate professional in the area. Listen, your home is no longer on the market, as you probably know, and you're probably getting a bunch of calls from real estate agents who are saying that they have a buyer for your home or that they can actually sell it since, even though they haven't seen it yet. Is that the case?
Yeah. You're like the 30th person to call me.
Yeah, and I apologize for that. I'm sorry getting harassed like that. Look, I'm not really calling to list your home or sell it or anything. I'm just, finding out a little bit more what your goals are now. What's your plan now that your home hasn't sold?
Well, geez, I'm really upset that it didn't sell because I need to be in Nashua, New Hampshire.
I can imagine, when you had your home, and again, I'm sorry it hasn't sold. When you put your home on the market originally, where were you headed?
I was going to Nashville. I had a job opportunity down there.
You said Nashville. Okay, super. Where are you going to be working down there, by the way? BAE?
Yeah.
Yeah, huge office down there, which is awesome. When were you hoping to be there?
Well, our plan is to get there before Christmas. So, we were.
Oh, man. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm really sorry. That's right. Why do you think your home didn't sell?
Geez, I don't think my agent marketed it very well.
Not a lot of showings.
Yeah, not a lot of showings. And in this market, in the Portland market, we should have had, 30, 40 showings, but we just didn't have that.
The market has slowed down, but not to the point where a nice home like yours wouldn't have sold for sure. What's the plan now?
I really don't know. I think we're going to kind of, probably market, look for other agents to help market us our home, or we'll try to do it ourselves.
I guess, is there a plan as a point at which you're going to start doing interviews?
My wife and I haven't really figured that out yet, but I think, we're going to go down the avenue of trying to sell it ourselves. So, because the market's hot and it should sell.
For sure. Have you ever sold a home yourself before?
No.
Okay. It's an option for sure.
Yeah.
You're up against it for time though, right? Don't you have to be in Nashville for a job soon?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
About an hour and a half trek back and forth, eh?
Yeah, it would be long. With a little daughter, with my family, I wouldn't get to see them much.
We know how fun that trip is on 101 every day. That's a good time.
Yeah.
Not really, right? Cool. When you said your agent didn't market your home well, what didn't they do?
Well, I just didn't get the showings that I was expecting, so I really don't know what they did.
And so no feedback or anything like that?
No.
Is getting top dollar still a consideration for you?
Oh, I need it. I need every dollar I can out of this house.
Did the agent showcase your house at all? Did they market to out-of-town buyers or anything like that?
I never heard really anything that they were doing.
So communication was pretty crappy. Okay, I get it. Hey, so may I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Let me come over and take a look at your home. You haven't an updated price in your home for a while. So let me come by and give you an updated price. And then I'll go over what to do, more importantly, what not to do to help you get the most amount of money. And then I can cover the fees and costs associated with getting your home sold. And then from there, we can talk about, whether or not I'd be a good fit for you to get your home sold. When's a good time for me to come over and talk with you and your wife about that?
Well, Wally, what are you going to charge? How much is it going to cost me?
You get a flexible commission structure. It can be as little as 0 and as much as 8%. It really matters on what you need to accomplish and what you need me to do. But, it's something that we'll work on together.
Okay. All right. And what are you going to do differently?
I don't know. Not even you know what your last agent did. So if you don't know, I definitely don't know what the last agent did. So I have no idea what I'm going to do differently. But what I can tell you is that I've got a proven, repeatable system backed by market research that gets my clients' homes sold for up to about 18% more than the methods used by other real estate agents. So that much I can tell you, I've got a system that works.
Okay. Well, that sounds great.
When would be a good time for us to get together so I can go ahead and talk to you about that?
How about Friday at 2?
Okay. And your wife's name?
Hadley.
Will Hadley be there at 2:00 on Friday?
She will be.
Okay, great. And she feels the same way about getting your home sold that you do?
Well, no, she'd like to stay here.
She would. Okay. Maine is good. Maine is nice. I got you. But obviously she's going to move with you because you got the job, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Okay, yeah. So let's do this. We'll come over at 2:00, and then just so I can do the best possible job of preparing for when we get together, let me ask, and then I go through a seller counseling interview that'll take 20 minutes to do so. Right. That's kind of it in a nutshell. If he's a little tougher to deal with, there's probably more questions I can ask him. Part of my job is to turn the screws on them. And so it seems like I was asking repetitive questions, but I wanted him to feel the pain of having the wrong agent and the marketing not working. And, I'm saying, so we can get that leverage to get him to move.
One of the things that you taught me, Wally, that I absolutely love, and it's actually removed a lot of, the fear of the phone, is you're really just doing a fact finding machine. You're just having a conversation and you're asking questions about them and how you can help them. So it's not, it's not this like hard sell, it's more like, how did that happen? Or why did that happen? Or, oh, I hear what you're saying. You're repeating what they're saying and you're saying, well, what went wrong? So it's like constantly asking questions and, providing a place for them to talk.
Right. And I think a lot of people are like, I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to be pushy. Well, telling is not selling. Telling is being pushy. Hey, look, if you don't put your home on the market now, who knows what's going to happen in the market, and you may not get the price you're looking for. That's pushy.
Right.
Yeah. And another thing that I've kind of learned in sales, because I've done sales in other industries, is there's key questions, especially in like that real estate sales script. They're always going to ask how much it's going to cost them.
Right.
So having a good answer, like you had that 0 to 8% answer down, and then also they're always going to ask like what makes you different, like why, okay, like why, like what, like why are you so much better than my last agent or every other agent that's so having that unique value proposition, and then also having that answer to the how much are you going to cost me, and then there's also a few others that go along with that, like how long is it going to take me to sell my house? Obviously, you can't guarantee them anything, but that's generally something that someone is going to ask.
Yeah. I love the proven repeatable system. I mean, I love that.
Yeah.
Back my market research. I remember when Wally taught me that, it was just like, and the example that he used when I still remember to this day. So, you walked into a kitchen and it was like green cabinetry. And he's like, well, you got to paint these cabinets. And, instead of saying it that way, you say, geez, back by market research, green cabinetry doesn't sell very well. So you should probably paint these cabinets.
Right.
So you blame the market.
Yeah. So. Yeah, right. Exactly. The other thing is, and I think this is important to realize, is that, you can say anything you want legally, ethically, and morally over the phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And really, you get at the door. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if he had said, hey, would you do it for 1%? Hey, I'm open to doing it for 1%. When can I come by and take a look at your home?
Yeah.
What are you going to do differently than what the other agent did? Well, you have a minute to tell me what the other agent did.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably not going to be able to articulate that.
Right.
The big thing, you want to know the big difference is I'm going to sell your house this time. I'm going to get your home sold.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. That's the big difference. And I know this because we sell more homes than anybody else in the area. We average our clients 4.2% more for their home than anybody else. And it's backed by a cancellation guarantee. So if you're not happy, you can cancel anytime. Yeah. So you're not locked in anything. Whatever, I'm saying, anything you have to say.
Yeah.
Right. Or, if you want, you can offer the guarantee sale program. What do you can do differently? Well, here's the deal. If I don't sell it, either one of my investors or I will step in and buy it. So one way or another, home's going to sell this time.
Yeah.
When can I come by and talk to you about it? So there's many ways to get around that, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fee structure is, anything's possible over the phone. I want you to sell my home, but I don't want to pay a commission. I want to give you like 3 cows, a sheep, and a goat. Okay, I'm open to it. When can I come over?
Yeah.
That's worth more these days. That's probably worth more than a commission at this. Right? So you're saying like anything's possible over the phone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you just have to, like, it's like Brian, one of the things Brian taught us, you got to speak to language. Language is a possibility of the phone, language of reality face to face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I like that. Can you say that one more time, Wally? Language of possibility over the phone and language of reality face to face. Is that what I heard?
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you called somebody and say, hey, I'm going to come over and list your home. I'm going to put you in a 1-year listing agreement. And no matter how crappy of a job that I do, you're not going to get out of it. Whether I find the buyer, you find the buyer, you're going to pay me a commission. If you go try and find the buyer and end around me, I'm going to sue you for the commission. So when can I come over?
Right.
Never.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, and by the way, if we price it too high, you're going to have to reduce it, and I'm not changing my fee.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything's possible over the phone, right?
Yeah.
That's funny.
So Wally, in your coaching world, what is your ideal client? I know we talked about this before, but it's somebody coming to you that has the foundation already in play, and then you round the edges. Is that what I heard?
Mostly. I mean, it all depends. I mean, look, I've coached people that were doing 2 deals a month. I coach people that were doing 100 deals a month. You know what I'm saying? So it all depends upon what you're doing. I mean, the coaching you're going to get is different based on what you're accomplishing, but you should at least know how to do a real estate transaction before you hire a coach.
Yeah.
Right. You should be able to talk to somebody, be able to set an appointment, be able to get in front of them, have some level of success with buyers, some level of success with sellers. And most people show up for coaching is when they can't figure out what to do to get their business to the next level.
Right.
Right. That's usually when most people show up. That's when you showed up, right? You were doing a certain number of deals.
Yep.
Like, okay, I'm here, I got this, but I don't want to get my business to the next level.
Right.
I think you train. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, how did you guys find each other? Like and also for everyone listening who's looking to get in a coach or thinking about it, how do you find a good coach? Like there's
you call 214-3. No.
No, what's the number? What's the number?
143341356.
Yeah.
So it's my cell phone number. I got a couple. I have like maybe one spot open. So if you're interested, let me know. But here's the thing: there's no shortage of coaches out there.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, there's a lot of people calling themselves coaches that aren't
right.
coaches. So the first thing you need to do is look at the person and see if they've ever sold a home before.
Mm-hmm.
Plenty of coaches out there that do not sell homes or have not sold homes. That's very problematic for me.
Yeah.
right? If I've never sat across the table from somebody and negotiated getting a listing agreement signed, if I've never taken somebody out to show them houses, how am I going to do that for you, right?
Right.
So first criteria is, have you sold homes, and have you done it at a fairly high level?
Mm-hmm.
Number one. Number two, do they actually have a system in place for you to follow?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they just telling you, go do this, go to that, try this, do, what I'm saying? I mean, you're not looking to be somebody's beta test.
Right.
You want to make sure they've got a system in place that's proven. I think like any product you get in the industry, you should be able to get some testimonials or from referrals from people.
Right.
Right. You should be able to talk to a couple of people who said, yeah, I had a great result with them.
Right.
Right. And then make sure they can demonstrate to you that they can get you the results, like proven results.
Mm-hmm.
I can say, hey, listen, Nick and I worked together, and Nick did the work. I just gave him guidance, but we got Nick from, 2 deals a month to 5 deals a month in 18 months,
right,
or whatever it was. I'm saying, and you can call him Nick and he can confirm that for you.
Right.
And then lastly, just make sure that you jive with that person. But the thing is like, you don't want, like, it's like going to a therapist who just says, okay, everything's fine. What do you want to talk about? Like, that's not a good therapist, because they're not going to solve problems for you.
Mm-hmm.
You want somebody who's going to be, soft when they need to be soft, and more direct when they need to be direct, and hold you accountable. You need to be held accountable, and, not necessarily be so emotionally involved. They're not going to get you to do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this in the pre-show, but do you have any stories about you holding Nick accountable?
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any like specific stories, but I mean, Nick's a super nice guy. Nick is probably one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet on the face of the planet. He's got a huge heart. He's a great dad. He's a great husband. Just a sweetheart. And he is so kind that he sometimes, he doesn't want to hurt people's feelings. He never wants to hurt anybody's feelings, but sometimes he'll not do what he's supposed to do because he thinks, he may bother somebody and stuff like that. So,
mm-hmm.
There'd be times when we would get on Zoom and I'd be like, okay, how'd you do? I didn't. I'm like, okay, why?
Right.
Well, this, all that. I'm like, what do you mean? Well, this, well, that. What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
You told me you wanted to sell this many houses. How are you going to sell this many houses if you don't pick up the phone?
Right.
Well, I got this going. I got that going. Okay. And then this is what I said. Let me see your calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see what's in your calendar, right? Because that's the ultimate, right?
Right.
Well, hey, Nick, there's no prospecting time in your calendar. How do you expect to prospect if there's no prospecting time in your calendar?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And it sounds like I'm being a jerk, but I'm not. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're paying somebody $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
You need that accountability. But here's the difference, though. I'm just not going to sit there and beat Nick up. I'm like, okay, so what's going on? Like, what's happening that you're not able to make phone calls?
Mm-hmm.
Like people say, and this really isn't just Nick. It's like, hey, I've got a lot of distractions. Well, distractions are your fault, right? Who decides what you get distracted by, you or the other person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something I heard recently is when you say yes to something, you're saying no to everything else.
Like that.
If you follow John Cheplack, he says it's not time blocking or time management. It's priorities blocking and priorities management.
Oh, I like that.
And it's in your calendar. It's a priority. Otherwise it wouldn't be there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But, and just generically here, I'm not going to get too deep into this, but, people who have, who procrastinate or are perfectionists or, have some self-sabotage issues or self-esteem or self-worth issues, there's, certain things they don't do well. And that's basically be consistent in going to the gym, keeping their calendar, sticking to their goals, prospecting, anything that requires consistency, they tend not to do as well at because they've got some issues around their self-worth and their self-esteem. And as such, that's, a lot of self-sabotage happens there. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's kind of the issue there.
Wow. That's great. So, Wally, thanks so much for joining us today on the Seven Figure Podcast. I really, really appreciate your time, your insight. And, if people want to get out there and reach out to Wally, he sounds like he's got a spot left. We'll put his information in the show notes below. But really, what I've learned in this industry early on is having somebody help you through the hard, your hurdles and it's not wrong and it's actually helpful, whether that be somebody in your office, if you're not doing the deals, it's somebody in your office that's able to guide you forward, your office manager, and then what I also heard is training, get after that training, sit down, read your scripts. I mean, if you're not doing real estate deals, then you should be reading your scripts and getting on the phone and making phone calls. That is your most important thing to do, in my opinion, and finding a good script, to practice and read. and do it over and over and over and over, and write it out and record it and listen to it. And then get on the phone. And, this is something I haven't done in a long time, Wally. So thank you so much for reminding me, is recording your, outbound calls. I haven't done that in years. And, getting on the phone, it's so easy to do now with technology, and it's hitting record and then listening to that. And if you don't find the fumbles, have somebody else listen to it and be like, oh, I would have said this differently. So
Yeah. Real quick, what are the legal implications of recording phone calls? Because my understanding is that you have to disclose it.
It's varied by state. In the state of Maine, you only one person needs to understand that you're recording the call.
Yeah. And that person can be you. Same thing
Correct.
with Texas, a one party state.
Yeah.
So some states you can't record anybody without their permission. I'm not going to say anything to anybody. I'm not advocating anything. If you're recording just to learn, and keep it for yourself and delete it,
Yeah.
you want to consider it. I'm not saying to break the law.
Right.
You got to do what's best for you, but for the purposes of just recording and listening to
That's
it,
what I thought. Yeah.
might be a little different than recording it. And, if you're going to use it for training purposes for a bunch of other people, you may want to say that. But if you're just doing it for yourself and then you're going to delete it, maybe that's a little less painful. But again, I can't advocate that you break a law in your state or do something that's against the law. It's just something to
definitely check that out, I guess.
Yeah, without question, right?
Yeah, without question.
Well, all right, Wally, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you?
Oh, yeah. So you can go to triggersalessystem.com.
Yep.
That's my website. And just as a thank you for having me on today, if anybody wants to get a half hour with me just to talk about their business and get some insight at no cost, you can just go to calendly.com/Coach Wally, and we'll sit down and take a look at what you're doing. And I can give you some free input on how to maybe take your business to the next level. That's my thank you to you guys for letting me be on the show today.
Oh, that's killer, Wally. Thank you so much.
That's great.
Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, this concludes this episode, and we'll see you in the next one.
All right, man. Thanks so much.